Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Sam and today we're going to be talking about the Mamiya 645. The Mamiya 645 is my first medium format film camera, and this is going to be my review of it over the past 6+ months of using it. The format is 120. What that means is basically it's a bigger negative than you get on 35mm, but it's not quite as large format 4x5. There's a couple of different sizes of 120 film that you can find, the most typical being probably 6x7, which is a bit larger than 645, that being probably the second most common. There's also a couple of more niche cameras that are in 6x9 or 6x12 format, but those are usually specialized cameras that are for panoramas and stuff like that. You can also find 120 backs for 4x5 cameras. The Mamiya specifically though does take both 120 and 220 film, depending on the insert that you have in the back for the film. I have both the 120 and the 220 inserts. 120 and 220 are the same width, the only difference is the length, and 220 is actually an expired format nowadays. You can't find it. It was an old professional format that was basically 2 times as many shots because they would, instead of doing a backing paper, just align it all with film. And it's also a lot longer. With the Mamiya 645 on 120, you get 15 shots. With 220, obviously, you get 30 shots. The Mamiya does also have a digital back for different models, but the 1000S, which is my model, does not have one of those. The models that you can get a digital back for are the M645 Super. The M645 1000S does mean that you get a shutter speed of 1000, whereas the regular M645 only gets up to 1/500th of a second. Loading film is pretty straightforward. It does take a second, and it's definitely not a one-handed job, but it only takes about a minute to do it, and once you get it down, it's pretty simple. One of the biggest perks about the M645 is its modularity. You can change the finders out. You can change the prism finder to a couple of different variants, usually with a meter. Mine is the CDS prism finder, which does include a meter. There's also the waist level viewfinder. The waist level viewfinder does also have a sports finder for if you're having a bit of a tricky time quickly using the waist level finder. Not only can you change out the finders, but you can also change out the prism. I like the split prism because it's one of the easiest ways to quickly find focus. There are a lot of different lenses for the Mamiya 645. I personally am using the 80mm f2.8, which is about the equivalent focal length of a 50mm on 35mm. There's a pretty special variety of lenses for the Mamiya system, ranging from a leaf shutter to the legendary 80mm f1.9, just because it has such a thin depth of field for medium format. You can also change the knob that's found on the side, though I've kept mine as the default one that it came with as well. So of course, like I mentioned before, it uses 120 film, but you can also get a couple of different backs, such as the aforementioned digital back, or also Polaroid 35mm, and so on. One of the other fun things about this camera is that it comes with a couple of different interesting features that you don't find on every camera. One of the most useful features is the mirror lockup. Because this is a bit of a bigger camera, the mirror is a little bit bigger, which also means that you're more likely to get some camera slap when you are taking a photo, particularly long exposures. The mirror lockup function serves to just lock up the mirror so that way when you take the photo, only the shutter opens after you've gotten your composure set up. There is a flash sync, but it's mainly meant for studio photography because the flash sync is set to 1/60th of a second. There are 2 shutter buttons, one on the front right side and one on the top right side. The buttons do also have the ability to be locked in place, so that way you aren't accidentally firing off, though if you forget to do it, you will definitely accidentally fire some shots, and I've definitely done that myself. It also does allow for multiple exposures, multi-exposures, and I have tried these a couple of times, and sometimes they work out well, sometimes they're accidental. It varies. In terms of use, it's definitely not a light camera, but it's also not overly heavy. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a daily carry camera by any means. It's definitely capable of just bringing it out for the day. There is a neck strap. I will definitely caution you on getting it because it's very ugly and very uncomfortable. I'm never a huge fan of neck straps, so that might be part of the issue, but it also doesn't lock on pretty typically, and it is a bit of a pain to take on and off. I tend to use the Peak Design fasteners for the camera straps, but the Mamiya 645 isn't able to do this, just because of the way that the strap actually connects is a bit different from normal cameras. Alright, so this is basically how it goes on. Like you can see, it's huge in the back here, and it's definitely not the most comfortable. And the way that it dangles is kind of a little bit inconvenient. The way that it dangles is just down like this, with the lens just pointing straight down. And of course you can hold it to keep it pointed forward, but that's also just a little bit awkward. And the Mamiya does also have a self timer for in case you want to just take those sweet self portraits. But of course, if you're going to use the self timer, that means that you can't see the camera in it, and that kind of defeats the purpose of having a film camera, doesn't it? Overall, I definitely recommend, if you're a beginner getting into medium format film, the Mamiya 645 is a great camera. It has a lot of different features and a lot of exciting, easy ways to use it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Go ahead and follow my Instagram below if you liked the shots that you saw. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.